I just watched this video, You Need to Be Direct with Girls by Denmo. This part at the end I really like, so I'm going to play it for you. So far in the video, he talks about the importance of being friendly with a woman when you first meet them and get to know them, because that's a key aspect. I completely agree with him that you need to have that person want to be your friend, and that's a vital part, right? And if you're meeting somebody and then also their friend, you need to kind of include their friend in the conversation. Like, you can't make their friend a third wheel, because the person you're trying to get to know is going to be put off by you doing that, and they're going to feel bad for their friend, and they're going to want to, give attention to their friend and not to you, right? It's an interesting balancing act. And he talks about the importance of being direct, and he'll get into that here.
In this conversation and interaction and saying, all right, so here's what we're going to do. That's basically what you're saying. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I have to get going, but I would like to get to know you better. So you're showing her that you would like to get to know her better. You are telling her your intent, and then you exchange contact information. And at this point, if she's like, actually, I have a boyfriend, you go, okay, no worries. I wanted to shoot my shot anyways, but hey, we can still be friends. I'll see you around.
I've done this multiple times. It's super effective, right? Because you get the point across. And I didn't watch the video past this, so I'm not sure what he's going to say, but I'll play it anyway. But he's absolutely correct, because even if you fail, even if she has a boyfriend, even if you strike out here, you're actually totally winning, because you were so direct. You got that point across, and then you can kind of like occupy this space of being like, that guy who asked me out, but I had a boyfriend, so I couldn't go out. She's still gonna kind of wonder, like, what if I did go out with that guy? You're gonna now occupy a different space in this person's mind, where they're like, well, this person likes me, they shot their shot, maybe I'll give them a chance.
And then you walk
in
away.
The future, but don't expect that. But at least you occupy that space. So then later on, when they don't have a boyfriend, or they're on the verge of breaking up, which never like pursue somebody in hopes that they're going to break up with somebody, but say you kind of start getting back in touch, and that'll often be because they're going to break up with their partner. If something can build and become a relationship later on down the road.
She's like, actually, like, I don't have time, I'm busy with school. You go, all right, no worries, I'll see you around, and then maybe next time I see you, you can come say hi to me, or something like that. Like, you don't want to try and dig in when a girl's not interested, because there's no point really.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you get shot down, just nope, on to the next one. And that woman's gonna respect you so much more for doing that, right? She's gonna be like, oh well, this guy has options and I'm not available, so he's on to the next one. That's going to make you more attractive to her, guaranteed, every time.
In pursuing a girl, that
like, people don't like having somebody be obsessed with them, having somebody be like, feel like they're in love with them when they're not even close with them. And they don't want somebody to like develop all these feelings individually, separate from them. Like, only develop feelings if you're like actually actively hanging out with somebody, and even then it still can be really off-putting. You should only really be developing any feelings if you're going on dates or like actively hooking up, and even then you probably shouldn't unless you're also going on dates, right? Because it's a bad idea, and it's going to come across as like clingy and weird, because you should only really be developing feelings for somebody that you're actively going out with.
Feels like she's giving you her number because like, I'm just gonna give this guy a number and then never text him again. You want a girl that seems really excited about you, a girl that's genuinely interested. The kind of reaction you want from a girl is like, yeah, absolutely, for sure, yeah, and then she voluntarily gives you her number. Or
also consider this, like, if a woman wants to give you her number or go out with you, she will. Sometimes she'll even have a boyfriend, and she'll still do it, right? Like, people cheat on each other. It's scummy. I don't engage in it, but a lot of people do. So like, if you get rejected,
Better yet,
you need to move
some of the
on.
clips that I have in my course, the girl will be like, hey, why don't you take my number and then text me? But this all comes from being direct. You are implying by directly saying what it is that you want to do, and then you're setting that up and then asking her out to go on a date.
So what he described earlier, before I started playing, was this idea of like being kind of aloof, being kind of friendly, and then kind of being like, oh, are you into this? Let's go out. And they might not fully see it as a date, right? Like sometimes people go out and it's in this gray area of like hanging out as friends or being a date. It needs to definitely not be definitively hanging out as friends, but it also doesn't need to, it does not necessarily need to be directly we're going on a date. It can exist in this in-between area, which is kind of the sweet spot, kind of where you want to be.
Date. And that is 90% of the hard work, because now you've already established that strong connection. The texting is super easy, back and forth, and then you guys go out on the date and you just continue where you left off. That's it, okay? I hope this helped you guys.
And the reason you would want that is because when you're like, let's go out on a date, that it's just, there's so much like baggage associated with that, right? Like think about how much content there is out there about, should women pay for dates? Shouldn't the men pay for the dates? Should you go 50-50? Think about how complicated just paying for whatever you're doing is. And then you add like 10 different layers of complication into the whole event, with it being that, with it just officially being a date, right? It like creates this whole different dynamic, which isn't nearly as fun. Whereas if it's this in-between area where neither one of you know for sure if it's a date or what it is, it's just a lot more fun because there's mystery to it. And also it relieves so much of the pressure and all these like awkward dynamics and social expectations and worries. Like it's just such a nicer environment to like really build a connection with somebody and connect. Because you feel so, like as a guy, right? You feel this pressure. All right, I'm going on a date, so I got to spend such and such money, and we got to go to like 3 different places when we have to do this. There's so much focus on like what you're doing, and the focus should be on like the other person. And like you can literally do anything in a friend hangout. Usually when you're hanging out with a friend, it's like you're chilling at a place, maybe you go to like a store or two, like you usually do one additional activity on top of the just hanging out. Now granted, I'm not saying exist in this in-between area and then just like hang out in like your place or something. No, don't do that. But maybe do like that plus one activity just to eliminate all that. Like you'd think it wouldn't eliminate all this awkwardness, right? Because inherently there's a reason that on dates people go to like dinner and a movie and such. It's because you're actively doing things. It very often brings up new topics. It breaks the ice because it's like, hey, that waiter looks like I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis, or maybe this movie, you know, once you're done watching the movie, you can talk about it for however long, and you can connect it to other things like, oh, I seen this actor in something else, or this one time I saw a movie, I had this certain movie theater experience. I like watching movies at home. I like this type of movie, that type of movie. Like it gives you so much to talk about just actively doing this variety of things, but just having things to talk about, like that's not really any kind of depth of conversation and doesn't stand out in anybody's mind. That's not necessarily a good date. The best dates you can have with somebody, or say you go out and say you go to dinner, right? It's when you have those incredible conversations that you typically get like kind of decently deep into whatever topic, but not like super deep. Like it's not like you're stuck on one topic for the whole time, and especially if it's a topic that the other person does not care about at all, well, that's going to be a disaster. But What you need to do is like find something that the person does care about and then talk deeply about that, and find ways to connect the details that they're giving you about that topic to other things, right? Like maybe it's complicated because you're rolling the dice on you having to know anything that can connect to the thing that they're into and connecting it to something you're into and kind of redirecting the conversation back to them repeatedly. But it's a skill you can grow over time. And like Denmo here talks about, like being friends with women and also friends with men is going to help you out in doing that, right? Because you do that when you hang out with somebody. So you need to be practicing on your friends to an extent, to where you are. I mean, if you struggle with this, you do. Obviously, if you don't struggle with this, you don't need to practice, but you can also get a very similar practice just communicating with people by just communicating with people, right? Like, there's people you went to school with, there's people you are related to, right? Like, you got cousins, you got aunts, you got uncles, baby brothers and sisters, and you just gotta communicate with people and figure out those little conversation skills. And that's just gonna up your game tenfold, because the flow of conversation is so critical, right? Like finding those connections is how you are gonna connect to people, right? Like there's a reason that men who get a lot of women get a lot of women. It's because they're able to connect.
There's so many dudes.
It's a skill that people have honed.
Videos, how to talk to girls, blah blah blah. No videos of them doing this stuff. No videos, okay? No receipts. Please, if you have a friend that isn't that good at talking to girls, send this video to them. Help them understand the proper way to do it, and that way they can finally stop being lonely and leave their house, go and approach girls in real life, and get an awesome girlfriend. And that part of their life, that dating situation they find themselves in, is solved. And that will make them feel so much better about themselves. It'll make them so much more confident. And then they can get back to the other things in their life that are important to them because they finally...
Yeah, in this, what he just said is exactly why I harp on men. And I say, if you haven't asked out 300 women to their face in person, you are not trying. If you haven't asked out an additional 600 women online, you are not trying. You have not tried to build those skills. The only way you can build those skills is through experience, right? And that experience, you're going to get better and better until you get to the point. There will be a point you could strike out 100 times, but on that 101th time, you're going to be so much better. You will have gained so much skill that your odds are going to start improving, right? Like you're going to be better at it. Some of these people you ask out are going to go out with you. And then you're going to continue through that 101 to 200. You're going to improve even more, right? So then by the time you're at number 201 through number 300, you're way better, right? So your rate of success is going to be even better. And then by the time you've asked out 300 people, you're just a pro, right? You're going to have built so much confidence. Even if every one of those 300 people you ask out reject you, you still will have gotten so much better and built so much confidence. Because it's not so much that it's like, yes, you're kind of learning how to read the person, read their body language. You're learning how to break that ice, but you're also kind of, whether you realize it or not, you're actually kind of more looking at yourself, right? Because your body language matters, your expression matters. The kind of vibe that you're giving off is more important than the vibe that they're giving off in a certain way, right? Because that's what you can change. Not everybody is going to be the same. In fact, every single person is different, right? So the only thing that you can ever control is two very important things: the vibe that you're giving off and how you're responding to the other person's vibe, right? Like you can adapt. And I mean, obviously you have to respond to the vibe that they're giving off. But you can adapt and change the vibe that you are giving off. You can adapt to the situation. That's the skill that you're building, is how to adapt. Like, right? Like, obviously it's nerve-wracking to ask somebody out you don't know, but it's what people do. It's a very critical skill. It's like, it's a part of the formula that you cannot go without. And it can't be understated, right? Earlier on in this video, he's like, I think it's him or somebody else who's like asking somebody out.
But yeah, I don't know you, but I'd like to know you eventually.
Okay.
So you just take my number and then hit me up.
Okay.
And we'll make omelets.
I think that's a plan.
Yeah. I'll cut up hot dogs and put them in the eggs.
I think that's a good idea.
It'd be a hot dog omelet.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 289.
Now, really watch that over if you have to. You can tell by the tone of his voice and the way he's looking around that he's a little nervous. This guy is definitely nervous doing this. Maybe it's because he's on camera, right? Like, I've done projects where, you're sticking a camera at somebody, they're not used to being in front of a camera, and they're just immediately awkward. Maybe this guy isn't normally that awkward. I have the feeling that he actually is, that he's nervous right now. Look at his arms, right? And look at the way that his eyes move around. That makes it seem like he's being super awkward, but he's not. He's actually not being awkward at all. He's existing within his awkwardness. It might even be intentional. He might be acting it up. But that awkwardness is, he's not letting it define the interaction. He's using it to his advantage. And that's a very critical part here. He's using this. He might even intentionally be trying to come across as awkward because he wants to also come across as though this isn't that big of a deal for him. That if she says no, then it's not going to like destroy his day.
Three.
All right.
Okay, what was your name again?
Sarah.
Sarah, nice to meet you. See you around.
Gentlemen.
Right? Like, he pops the smile. Everything he does here sends the message that this is a fun guy, that you're gonna have a fun time if you hang out with them. And it's like the most subtle flirting.
Okay, what was your name again?
Sarah.
Sarah, me up
Okay.
and we'll make omelets.
I think that's a plan.
Yeah, I'll cut up hot dogs and put them in the eggs.
I think that's a good idea.
It'd be a hot dog omelet.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 289.
Like, think about that. That's it. That's what you call an intentionally awkward interaction. Like, he's literally talking about cutting up hot dogs, putting them in eggs, and making an omelet, which a lot of people do. Like, it's not bad, but it's not like that interesting of a thing. It's that he's making himself interesting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know you, but I'd like to know you eventually.
Okay.
So you just take my number and then hit me up.
Okay.
Like, do you hear confidence in his voice? You kind of you kind of hear a lack of confidence in his voice, but the way that he's saying it, the way that he's using his voice, shows confidence, because he's expressing that this is like, that he's being
I
funny
think that's a plan.
and being kind of weird.
I'll cut up hot dogs and put them in the eggs.
I think that's a good idea.
It'd be a hot dog omelet.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 289.
Right? And that right there, he kind of like leaned forward a little bit and was ready to deliver his number. This is another thing that I've seen guys be kind of awkward with, is you need to have a plan for it being successful, right? These guys who have like never gone on a date, you need to come across as though, if this is successful, if this is going well, like that this is going to go well. You can't go in with a negative attitude that I'm just going to get shot down and everything's doomed. Like, once she agrees to the number, you have to also still come across as though, all right, I'm a cool guy. I probably hook up with other chicks. I got other options. If all of a sudden you collapse at this point and you're like, and you start stumbling on what your number is, it's gonna instantly signal to her like, all right, this guy is like completely overwhelmed by the situation. This guy's putting all this weight in us hanging out again. It's going to be very, very off-putting. You need to have that energy that like, this is successful. I know exactly what to do when this is going to be successful. Like, this is me, I'm charming. And he pops this smile at her, which is also incredibly important, right?
All right.
Okay, what was your name again?
Sarah.
Sarah, nice to meet you.
Meet you.
Like, he does the cutesy handshake and the smile. That alone. Look at her face. Look at her reaction to that. That was incredible, because he left on a high note, right? And a simple smile will do that. It will make the other person feel good and make them smile, right? Because it's like, it's giving off this fun vibe. It's doing what he just did was a step-by-step process that's actually very important. And it's actually not focusing on the process, which is what made the process go by so smoothly, right? It's all right, I need to come across as though I'm confident and I know this can be successful. And he comes across as though he's like not even surprised that this is successful. When he gives her the number, it kind of leans in. It's like, all right, this is the moment that I'm giving her my number, because of course I'm giving her my number because I'm the man, and of course she wants to go out with me, right? You have to have that energy. You have to. If you don't, then you're giving the opposite energy, and it's super off-putting.
All right.
Okay, what was your name again?
Right? Like, you need to express that you know that this is going to go well, or else how is she ever going to have confidence that this is going to go well and be a positive interaction going forward if you don't have that same energy, right? You need to have that attitude that I'm giving you my number because of course I'm giving you my number because of course this is going to go well.
Again?
Sarah.
Sarah, nice to meet you. See you around.
And yeah, just the smile. Who doesn't like a smile? This interaction is so much better than it comes across on first viewing it. Like, look at this pose. You think that's a confident pose? It's not, but because it's not a confident pose, it makes it a confident pose. Because he's not stressing out about what's going on, it's making it clear to her that he's not stressing out. I mean, even listen to me in the way that I talk. People perceive me as being like shy and lacking confidence until they've like had a conversation with me, or maybe even a few conversations, right? And then they realize, hey, this guy actually is really confident. This guy actually knows what he's talking about. This guy actually like
Ooh, nice. You guys made
is
lunch or
different
what?
than the first impression that I give off.
Omelets.
I don't like omelets.
Oh,
I was gonna go get a hot dog.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know you, but I'd like to know you eventually.
Okay.
So you should take my number and then hit.
Right? Like, think about, it's hard to really have an ear for, but he's being so awkward, but he's confident in his awkwardness. He has that attitude that this will be successful, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Like, just isolate that part of the interaction. It was awkward, it was weird, but he has the correct attitude. He has the attitude that it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of awkwardness, because it really doesn't, right? That can be very charming to a woman. It can be very charming, right? Think about all the romantic comedies where you have this like stumbling, awkward guy who's infatuated with a woman. Women find that very endearing. It's that it's just the fact that they also want the guy to have that confidence that, like when he throws out his number, that he understands that this could go well, that this probably will go well. That's the confidence. Confidence isn't being perfect with your words. In fact, it'd probably be a little bit weird and off-putting if you were perfect with your words, if you say all of the right things, right? Think about times women have said that, oh, this guy said all the right things, he was perfect. That's because it's really rehearsed and people can kind of see through that. right? They're like, oh, this guy's a used car salesman. It's because some people are just perfect with their conversation skills and some people aren't. You don't have to be. And in fact, it's almost kind of nice and kind of sweet when you aren't. So these really tiny details are very important. You could be terrible at conversation, at talking, right? There's tons of guys out there where whoever they're talking to is two people who could have totally different first languages, and they could have an interaction like this interaction here, but one that's 10 times smoother than this, right? That happens all the time. Trust me, it does. It's all about having confidence in the interaction, having confidence in yourself. And I think that there's some key ways to build that, and I'd love to talk about it more. I want to make more videos on the topic. Check out this Denmo channel. The guy has the right attitude. The guy understands some of these finer details for sure. And I just ultimately want to help people, help them see maybe what they're missing in interacting with people, because it's a key part of dating. Interactions here they can't be missed, right? Like, timing is everything, and you create your timing in your development with somebody else, right? Like, so many people who end up in the friend zone, it's because you put yourself in the friend zone. It's because you insisted on being friends or occupying a space or not moving on when the person has a partner and has shot you down, and you put yourself in the friend zone. And you need to realize that you've done that, not do it in the future. Learn how to have better interactions with people, not just on an individual basis, but like on an ongoing kind of basis. You need to be thinking about the next time you're going to see this person, even if there's like a 99% chance that there isn't going to be a next time. Even if there's a 99% chance that they're going to shoot you down and you're never going to see this person again, you still need to have that. You need to have it in your head. All right, we're going to meet up. We're going to make some eggs. We're going to put some hot dogs in them. You need to express that you know that there will be a next interaction. Make it clear what that is going to be, and make it seem like it's going to be fun, because people just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun.